Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a truly fascinating look at the digital worlds that have completely captivated us over the last few decades. And we aren't just talking about today's popular releases. Oh no. We are counting down the absolute industry-shaking milestones that fundamentally altered how we play. Okay, let's dive into this, because this countdown is going to take us all the way from the brink of total industry collapse straight through to the massive live service phenomenons we know today.
I mean, think about the device you're gaming on right now, whether it's a high-powered console, a PC, or just the smartphone sitting in your pocket. How exactly did we get here? Today, we're going to frame this explainer as a journey through the levels of video game history. We'll discover how gaming evolved from what so many considered a near-dead fad back in the early 1980s into a global entertainment medium that now literally dwarfs Hollywood. So let's power up and start the countdown.
All right, level 1, surviving the crash. Every great game has an origin story, right? And for the modern gaming industry, that story actually starts with a disaster. Kicking off our top 10 list at number 10 is the 1983 Atari video game crash. If you step back into the early 1980s, the entire North American industry was, quite frankly, on the brink of extinction. The market was absolutely flooded with low-quality games. There was virtually zero quality control, and store shelves were just horribly oversaturated. This caused a total collapse of consumer confidence. Companies went bankrupt left and right, retailers wanted absolutely nothing to do with gaming, and the mainstream consensus was that video games were just a passing fad that had finally run its course. But, destruction often breeds creation. Which brings us to number 9 on our countdown. Nintendo revives the industry. The 1983 crash, ironically, kind of cleared the board. It washed away that flood of terrible games and paved the way for some incredibly strict quality standards. This massive vacuum in the market allowed a company from Japan to step in and completely reinvent what home gaming could be. Let's move to and see how this builds, because just 2 years after that massive crash, Nintendo releases the NES in North America in 1985. But here is the absolute genius part. They didn't even call it a video game console. Since retailers hated video games at that point, Nintendo cleverly marketed the NES as an entertainment system. They even designed it to look way more like a VCR than an arcade machine. This brilliant pivot, combined with top-tier games, entirely restored public trust. Without the NES, the modern gaming industry as we know it might never have recovered. Now that the industry had a pulse again, it was time to grow up. Welcome to Level 2, Worlds Expanding. As we transitioned into the 1990s, gaming hardware rapidly matured and pulled in entirely new demographics. Coming in at number 7 on our countdown is 1994, the year Sony entered the console war. After a famously failed partnership with Nintendo, Sony decided, you know what, we'll go it alone, and launched the original PlayStation. They permanently transformed the landscape by making one absolutely crucial hardware choice, using CDs instead of cartridges. This allowed for massive cinematic games with actual recorded audio. Plus, Sony boldly targeted older audiences, teenagers and adults, quickly turning themselves into an absolute industry giant. While Sony was dominating the living room, something else was totally taking over the playground. Number 6 on our countdown is the 1996 launch of a little Game Boy title that took over the world, Pokémon. What started out as just a pair of portable role-playing games quickly spiraled into an absolute cultural obsession. It's really wild to think about the sheer scale of the phenomenon branching out from that little Game Boy. Pokémon proved, definitively, that video games could become massive global entertainment brands. We are talking a multimedia empire here, spanning animated TV shows, blockbuster movies, billions of dollars in toys, and an incredibly lucrative trading card game. It showed the world that a video game IP could be just as big, if not bigger, than Disney or Star Wars. As worlds expanded, players naturally wanted to share them. Which brings us to Level 3, getting connected. This era fundamentally shifted gaming from a solitary activity to a shared, competitive experience. To understand the roots of this, we're actually grouping number 8 on our countdown right into this level, id Software's Doom, released back in 1993. While it wasn't the very first first-person shooter, it completely revolutionized the genre. Doom laid the ultimate foundation for competitive multiplayer by letting players connect their PCs and battle each other over local networks. Literally every modern online shooter you play today, Call of Duty, Halo, Counter-Strike, owes a massive debt to those network deathmatches pioneered by Doom. Fast forward from those early PC networks, and we arrive at number 5 on our countdown, the launch of Xbox Live in 2002.
Microsoft looked at the console landscape and realized that bringing the console online was the ultimate next step.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive shift that happened. Before 2002, online console gaming was a complete Wild West. It was incredibly fragmented, often required awful peripheral adapters, and was highly unreliable. But after Xbox Live, suddenly you had unified features, built-in voice chat, unified friends lists across all your games, seamless matchmaking, and the introduction of achievements and downloadable content. Microsoft established the core online features that gamers now expect as an absolute bare minimum standard.
With the world now connected, developers really started thinking outside the box. Welcome to Level 4, Infinite Play. This is the modern era, where games evolved from finite 10-hour stories into infinite player-driven experiences. Landing at number 4 on our countdown is the Nintendo Wii, released in 2006. Nintendo totally shocked the entire industry by refusing to compete on raw graphical power. Instead, they focused entirely on motion controls. The result? A massive household sensation. The Wii brought gaming to literally everyone, attracting families, seniors in retirement homes, and people who had never ever considered themselves gamers. It dramatically expanded the entire audience of who a gamer actually is. Number 3 is a game that just completely redefined creativity, Minecraft, released in 2011. Starting as a quirky, independent sandbox project, it exploded into one of the best-selling games in human history. Instead of giving players a strict story and telling them exactly what to do, Minecraft just gave them blocks. It proved that a player's imagination, their drive for exploration, and their desire to collaborate could be a video game's greatest feature, fueling an entire indie game revolution along the way. Hitting the number 2 spot is the game that launched the Battle Royale explosion, Fortnite, back in 2017. While it wasn't the first Battle Royale, Fortnite undeniably turned the genre into a live service phenomenon. It broke down massive industry walls by pushing for cross-platform play, meaning kids on PlayStations could finally play with their friends on Xbox or mobile. With frequent updates, huge seasonal events, and even live in-game concerts, Fortnite entirely changed how developers everywhere approach long-term player engagement.
Okay, we are almost at the final boss of our countdown, but first it's time for a rapid-fire bonus stage, honorable mentions.
In 1989, the Game Boy launched, proving you could take real games anywhere. In 2003, we saw the rise of Steam, which revolutionized digital distribution, meaning we no longer had to go to a physical store to buy PC games. In 2004, World of Warcraft popularized the massive multiplayer online RPG, creating virtual worlds that literally millions lived in. Then came the arrival of smartphones, putting a gaming console in everyone's pocket. And finally, in 2017, the Nintendo Switch completely blurred the lines between handheld and home console gaming. Each of these radically shifted the landscape of our medium. But all of these innovations, all of this massive global success, leads us to one lingering question. Which single game actually saved the entire industry? What is the one moment that holds the ultimate high score in gaming history? Think back to that crash of 1983 we talked about earlier. Who was the hero that pulled the medium from the ashes?
Get ready, we have reached the final boss, the ultimate high score. Number 1 on our list, Super Mario Bros., released in 1985. This wasn't just a bestseller, it was an absolute revelation. No single game has had a greater impact on gaming history. It became the gold standard for platformers, perfectly showcased exactly what a home console was capable of, and most importantly, it single-handedly convinced millions of skeptical consumers that video games were actually here to stay. It's a phenomenon best summed up like this. Human history has wars. Gaming history has an Italian plumber, blocky cubes, and people shouting into microphones because someone camped near a spawn point. It's wonderfully ridiculous, isn't it? But it's so true. So the crucial point is, Mario's universal appeal, his incredibly tight controls, and that memorable level design made him the undeniable face of gaming itself. Without Super Mario Bros., the industry might never have survived its darkest hour. Nearly every major gaming success we enjoy today owes at least a small debt to that iconic plumber and the moments that followed. From the depths of the 1983 crash to the sprawling, infinite worlds of today, gaming is a medium defined by constant, rapid evolution. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to take away from this explainer. With virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and cloud gaming on the horizon, what will be the next innovation that fundamentally changes how we play? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.